The second key to success is equipping. I have discovered that people that are successful have the ability to take and equip and train other people. In fact, in your notes, I want to say it this way. Great leaders grow their vision from me to we. Great leaders understand that they need to take the vision that they have and they need to be able to train and equip others. And this is the only way they can ever compound their vision. Let me just read something to you. It's not in your notes, but this kind of tells you, I think, the experience all of us have had in equipping. Before I read this to you, how many of you have trained somebody, equipped somebody, poured your life into somebody, developed somebody, gave them your best shot, only to find out that they left, they quit, they did something stupid? How many of you have ever had a bad experience equipping somebody? Here we go. 100% in the audience again. How many of you are seated beside that person? Now you're learning. You're learning that second question is always a trick question, okay? Here, let me read this to you. This just describes every one of us and how we at times try to pour our life into somebody and it just doesn't work. As nearly everyone knows, an executive has practically nothing to do except to decide what is to be done, tell somebody to do it, to listen to reasons why it should not be done, why it should be done by someone else, or why it should be done in a different way. To follow up to see if the thing has been done, to discover that it has not. To inquire why, to listen to excuses from the person who should have done it, to follow up again to see if things have been done, only to discover that it has been done incorrectly. To point out how it should have been done, to conclude that as long as it has been done, it may as well be left where it is, to wonder if it's not time to get rid of a person who cannot do a thing right. To reflect that he probably has a wife and a large family, and that certainly any successor would be just as bad, or maybe even worse. To consider how much simpler and better the thing would have been done if one would have done it oneself in the first place. To reflect sadly that one could have done it right in 20 minutes, and as things turned out, one has had to spend 2 days to find out why it has taken 3 weeks for someone else to do it wrong. Have we been there before? We've all been there. Now, when I talk about equipping people and training people, one of the first responses I get from others is, John, this is just not easy. And it really isn't. This is very difficult. So I want to talk to you about why people fail to equip other people, because I just see them do it constantly. Number one, it's hard work. Equipping people is not easy. I have discovered that when it comes to equipping and training people, people don't stay in place. They move. They don't always stay where we put them. And aren't there times we just say, okay, don't change anything, just do this, just like it is. My background's theology, and so for my several years I was a pastor, and when I graduated from theological school, I came back to my college 10 years later. When I came back, I saw Herman. I hadn't seen Herman for 10 years. We graduated together, and he went his way in a different state than I did, and he was a pastor, and I was a pastor, and so I said, Herman, how's it going? How's the pastoring going? He said, well, I'm not pastoring anymore. I said, well, Herman, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm a funeral director. Okay. I said, why did you make the change? He said, oh, John, that's easy. He said, you know, when I was pastor, I had to counsel with people. Oh, my goodness. I mean, take Joe. He had an alcohol problem. I worked with him a couple years. He still really has an alcohol problem. There was Susie and Danny, and they had a marriage problem. Worked with them for over 2 years, tried to keep their marriage together. He said they ended up getting divorced. He said, it's just very discouraging. He said, the thing I love about my job now, he said, when I straighten them out now, they stay straight. Well, you and I both know. The only people that stay straight are dead people. And so I guess unless you have an organization with a bunch of dead people, you know what I'm saying, they're going to move on you. And when they move on you, it doesn't always turn out right. And so equipping's hard work. Number two, we underestimate people. One of the reasons we fail to equip others is because we truly underestimate what they can do. Whenever I find somebody that doesn't spend time training, developing, and working with others, beneath the reason why they don't is almost always an underestimation of what other people can do. And when you underestimate what people can do and how they can grow and what they can become and how they can develop, I will promise you this: you won't spend much time training and developing. Number three, we enjoy doing the task ourselves. One of the reasons we fail to equip people is because there are just some things we love to do. Isn't that true? In fact, this was a huge transition for me as I grew up as a leader, because I found that there were a lot of things I really just enjoyed doing. One of the most important days of my life was when I realized that if I was going to keep being successful, if I was going to keep growing, if I was going to be able to do more and be more than I ever was, one of the most important days of my life was this: when I realized that I was going to have to give up things that I really enjoyed doing, that somebody else could do sometimes even much better than me, so that I could begin to do the things that I should be doing. When I got off of the enjoyment page to the priority page, when I got off of this is what I like to do to this is what I should do, and this is where the return is, and this is where the profit is. Wow. It was not only a mature day in my leadership, it was a breakthrough day. Number four, we receive ego strength from being needed. There's something about the ego fulfillment and ego strength we have when people just basically say, you know, I just really need you. Or, how's this one? We could have never made it without you. Oh my goodness, if you wouldn't have been here, whoo, down the tubes we would have gone. Now, let me just say something to you. It's not true. Trust me, my name's John, I'm your friend. It's not true. And if you just think that somehow you have to be there and it isn't going to happen unless you're there and the world is kind of waiting for your decision, just die. You'll find out very quickly everything goes on. That just does. I remember many years ago when I had a heart attack and I got through it and was fine. And I got to this time where I kind of replayed. And I thought, what would have happened if I'd have died? I mean, what would have happened if I'd have died? Well, they'd had a funeral. They'd had a nice memorial service, and a lot of friends would have come and said nice things about me. But I know what would happen. 30 minutes after they put me in the grave, they're back at some reception hall, and the biggest question on people's mind is, where is the potato salad? And I just laughed. I laughed at myself. This was very good therapy for me. I just want you to laugh at yourself, because I want you to understand this, because it is a fact that when people say, oh, we couldn't do without you, that's stroking the ego, but it isn't reality. Another reason we fail to equip others, number 5, is that we are in the habit of doing everything. I think a lot of times we fail to equip others because it truly is a habit with us. We're just in the habit of doing things. And because we're in the habit of doing things, what do? We just keep doing things. It's just sometimes a habit in our life. Number 6, this is big. A lot of times we fail to equip others because we want to keep control. I have discovered that people that are control individuals, sometimes we call them control freaks, okay? People that really have to have the last say and have to make sure that it's done my way. And to be honest with you, people that have to be in control most of the time are highly insecure. In fact, you could almost go to the bank on this. The more a person has to be in control, normally the more insecure that person is. But I want to tell you this. If you're one of those kind of people, you have to know everything, have to touch everything, have to have your say in everything, have to tell people exactly how it has to be done. If it's not done your way, you're in trouble. Let me just tell you this. You'll always have a difficulty equipping and training and developing people. And the reason you'll have a difficulty in this area is because you just won't let go. That's why in the laws of leadership, the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, when I talk about the law of empowerment, secure people give power away. Only secure people give power away. Insecure people control, hold on to it, protect it, defend it, put a fence around it, memorialize it, have a tradition every year to go back and visit it. I need not go any farther. Number 7, Another reason that we sometimes fail to equip others is we don't notice the leadership potential in those around us. And this is so vital. This is so key. I see this happen all the time. Now, I've already talked about the fact that we underestimate people. And that's one of the reasons we don't sometimes equip people. But what is really sad is we not only sometimes underestimate what people can do, but we underestimate how well they can lead others. Now, this is key. It's wonderful when you train a person to do their job. It's wonderful when you equip them to do whatever they are supposed to function in. But it's even more wonderful when you begin to develop people. You not only train them to do their job, but what you really do is that you help them understand that they can become a leader. Because every time you train somebody to do a job, you fill a job. Every time you train somebody to be a leader, now all of a sudden, they have the ability to reproduce themselves and develop others and train others. And that's where the multiplication begins. Now, I say that because this was a miserable failure in the beginning part of my life. I didn't see other people as leaders. I kind of had this idea that I was the leader and everybody was to follow me. And I kind of had this wrong concept of follow the leader game. And I'll do this and you follow me and I'll always do it better than you. But you can follow me. Quote, you can touch the hem of my garment. But that's about as far as it went. And I can tell you it was a huge mistake. In the beginning years, I didn't develop any leaders because I didn't think anyone had leadership potential. And what a big mistake that was. Don't make that mistake. Don't do that. Understand that even if a person, quote, isn't a born leader, they can learn to lead. And every time you teach a person to lead, you now not add value to your business. You not now just add value to your and bottom line profits. You begin to multiply. Now, in your notes, I have here for you an equipping inventory that you can look again and go through. Now, I want you to do that always on your own, and we're not taking time today to do that, but I always want to make sure that you do that. What I want to do as I talk about equipping for a few more minutes is I want to talk to you about a couple of teamwork laws, because this is very important. In fact, I wrote a book. You ought to get it. It's entitled Teamwork Makes the Dream Work. Because I have discovered that's exactly the truth. If you really want your dream to work, you got to get your team to work. In fact, if you don't have a team that works, you don't have a dream that's going to work. You have a nightmare. I know a lot of people that have a big dream and a small team. And that's a gap that you never want to have. So let me give you a couple of teamwork laws that will help you understand what I consider to be the value of equipping other people. For example, here's a teamwork law, the law of significance. The law of significance says one is too small of a number to achieve greatness. This is a fantastic law. One is too small of a number to achieve greatness. I run into people all the time who seemingly think that they can do it on their own. In fact, people come up to me and they'll say, well, you know I'm a self-made man. And I know they want me to congratulate them, but whenever they tell me they're a self-made man, I always look at them and say, oh, that's too bad. Because you see, if you truly have made everything yourself, you've not made nothing. That's an absolute fact. The people that really do something significant are those who include others. In fact, let me throw a challenge out to every one of you today. This is a challenge for you to just grab hold of for a moment. Name one significant event in history that was accomplished by just one person without the help of anyone else. Now, I can promise you, if you do that, if you go there, I can promise you, you're not going to be able to name that person. In fact, I was in, where was it? Joburg, South Africa a few years ago, doing a large business conference, probably 5,000 people. And I was teaching this law of teamwork, and I threw out that challenge. I'll never forget, a guy about halfway up in the balcony yelled out, he said, Charles Lindbergh, he crossed the Atlantic by himself. I said, that's true. But Ryan Aeronautical Engineering built the plane. And 10 millionaires financed the trip. Any other suggestions? What he realized, of course, and what everybody realized that day was, one is too small of a number to achieve greatness. You cannot do it on your own. One cannot multiply. You have to have a group. You have to have a team. And what I've discovered is this. If you want to have a great idea, you have to have several good ideas. Great ideas aren't born or birthed in a vacuum. Nobody ever got up one morning and said, oh, great idea. No, they maybe got up and said, good idea. But what you do is when you bring other people in with a good idea and you begin to share that good idea with others, what happens? All of a sudden you get 5 good ideas. And when you get 5 or 6 good ideas, what happens? Now the synergy's in the room. And out of 5 or 6 good ideas, guess what? A great idea is birthed. And that's where you want to go. And that's the value of teamwork. That's the value of bringing people together as a team. It'll take you to a much higher level. I had somebody ask me the other day, said, how do I know if I have a good team? I said, it's very simple. If you have a good team, every time you throw an idea out of them, they give you a better idea back. If you have a good team, every time you suggest something, they'll suggest something at a higher level. What I have discovered, and it's an absolute fact, is that people, the right people, will always make you and me better. Here's what I say. One of us is not as smart as all of us. That's the value of understanding, equipping, training, and building together a team. Let me give you one more teamwork law. These are taken from my book, The 17 Laws of Teamwork. This is the law of Mount Everest. And as the law of Mount Everest says, as the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. You see, this law is about gathering and growing a team to accomplish something big. That's what this law is all about. It's about gathering and growing a team. In other words, the question I have for you is, who are you bringing around you? I guess there are really 2 questions. Who are you bringing around you? And what are you doing to develop them? Because it's more than just gathering people around you. That's good, but it's not enough. You also want to grow them. The law of Mount Everest basically says this. If you're just going to climb a hill, you don't need a team. I mean, I guess you just need your shorts and gym shoes. Isn't that right, huh? Get your shorts and sneakers and spend an hour and climb the hill. You really don't need a team to climb a hill. But the law of Mount Everest says if you're going to climb Mount Everest, if you're going to take something bigger than life, bigger than you can ever imagine, bigger than anything you've ever accomplished, basically the law of Mount Everest says the bigger the project, the bigger the challenge, the better team you have to have around you. So there are 3 Mount Everest questions that you just need to ask yourself. If you're going to build a Mount Everest team, here are the questions you want to ask yourself. Number 1, what is my dream? It's a great question. What's my dream? What am I trying to accomplish? That's the first thing. Because I can tell you this, the size of your dream determines the size of your team. So if you have the dream of a hill, the biggest thing you want to do is climb a little hill, then you can kind of just climb a little hill team. If you want to climb Mount Everest, the size of your dream must determine the size of your team, which brings me to the second Mount Everest question. Who's on my team? That's a very important question because I run into people all the time who say, I have a great dream. And they talk about their dream, and I'm glad they're talking about their dream. I get very excited about it. But as they're talking about their dream, I want to slow them down. I want to say, time out, hold it just a second. Here's the question I've got for you. Not what your dream is. Who's on your team? Because I want to tell you something. A big dream and a bad team, it's a nightmare. I guarantee. The third question you want to ask yourself is, what should my dream team look like? In other words, if I had this Mount Everest dream, okay, then what should my dream team look like? And let me say this. Only when the team and the dream match do you fulfill it. I also want to say one other thing. In the beginning, the dream is always better and bigger than the team. In the beginning, it just is. You got this big dream, and you got to start assembling people. They aren't always the right people. You don't have all the right people on the bus. You got to change them around a little bit. You know that, don't you? Okay? So in the beginning, your dream is bigger than your team. But the longer you stay, the more the team should grow up to equal and be able to meet the challenge of that Mount Everest dream. The best equipping illustration I can give you is one of my very favorite. I'll read it to you. It's the story of a bricklayer who tried to move 500 pounds of bricks from the top of a four-story building to the bottom below. And the problem was he tried to do it all by himself without the help of anyone else. And these are the words, right here, are the words that were taken off of his insurance claim form. Here's what he said. It would have taken too long to carry bricks down by hand. So I decided to put them in a barrel and lower them by a pulley, which I'd fastened to the top of the building. After tying the rope securely at ground level, I then went up to the top of the building. I fastened the rope around the barrel, loaded it with bricks, swung it out over the sidewalk for the descent. Then I went down to the sidewalk and I untied the rope, holding it securely to guide the barrel down slowly. But since I only weigh 140 pounds, 500-pound load jerked me from the ground so fast that I didn't have time to think of letting go of the rope. As I passed between the second and third floors, I met the barrel coming down. This accounts for the bruises and the lacerations of my upper body. I held tightly to the rope until I reached the top, where my hand became jammed in the pulley. This accounts for my broken thumb. At the same time, however, the barrel hit the sidewalk with a bang, and the bottom fell out. With the weight of the bricks gone, the barrel weighed only about 40 pounds. Thus, my 140-pound body began a swift descent, and I met the empty barrel coming up. This accounts for my broken ankle. Slowed only slightly, I continued the descent, and I landed on the pile of bricks. This accounts for my sprained back and broken collarbone. I love this next phrase. I'd like to debate it. At this point, he said, I lost my presence of mind completely. I lost my presence of mind completely, and I let go of the rope. And the empty barrel came crashing down on me. This accounts for my head injuries, and asks for the last question on your insurance claim form. What would you do if the same situation arose again? Please be advised I'm finished trying to do the job all by myself. Successful people equip people because they know they shouldn't and can't do the job all by themselves. Just remember the barrel the next time